question of open versus closed, and there's a natural desire to keep data proprietary, and there's really great private data in the private sector that might have great public use.
I heard the other day that PG&E, the local utility here, has I think 1,200 people doing GIS analysis, geographic information services, or geographic information services. They can tell you anything that you want to know about the power consumption in San Francisco. But they won't share it, right? It's this sort of expert, this kind of cabal of experts that's been paying attention to this and cares about it and is deeply invested in this idea that you learn how to use a tool, you get certified, and then you're able to make recommendations. I think the thing that's happening now with some of this work is, and Aaron Koblin and others, we're certainly not the only ones who are doing this, but that the artists are getting their hands on it, and the people that are playing with this stuff now have a kind of much more public sense of the data, and they really, certainly at my studio, what we try and do is make something that's visually arresting enough for you to say, oh, what's that? And then kind of reward repeat viewing.
I think something very remarkable is going on, and it may be one of those cool things about Bay Area culture. You know, you have this developer API open culture, you have people who can work with it, you have artists who are playing with it, and it's actually led to the point that the city's gotten pretty engaged. And in fact, our mayor, who was running for governor and likes embracing great technical things, recently got into the middle of this himself and started promoting the open interfaces.
There was an announcement in San Francisco of the Data SF initiative, and the mayor came and, you know, was pretty open about questions. You didn't think he was just totally not into it. You know, he was engaging with the developer community. My partner Mike asked him questions about whether they were going to accept it as a write API instead of just a read API. I mean, I think that's the real danger, is that cities, I think this is where we really kind of need to be on them, and I have to give my partner Mike Magursky credit for this, is that, you know, rather than, you know, just saying, well, it's great, you guys are giving us all your data, well, what about our ability to write back to that database and to do self-corrections and all that kind of stuff, because you may be wrong. Right? I mean, it's not just an interface for the city to tell us what it knows. It's a way for us to tell the city what we know and to kind of get that self-correcting ecosystem going.
And so for all of us meeting at the Engaging Data Forum here, we may remember this year, 2009, for something very special. I actually think there's this delightful API war going on between cities. On the one hand, we have San Francisco releasing an API so that people can build data. On the other, the city of New York bests San Francisco by releasing an app store with a $20,000 prize and dinner with the mayor, to which the San Francisco mayor strikes back saying he will have an app store and we will have better examples. And you see this in the commercial world. I've been doing a lot of work with Best Buy, which created something called Remix, which was about opening up its data. You know, whenever you have data and you're a private company, the question is, when I'm opening it up, am I giving up an asset, or am I creating an ecosystem that helps me? And this is, I mean, this is the issue that Oakland was facing. It's an issue that AT&T or cell carriers face. And Best Buy faced the same thing with its own data. They actually got pushed into it because a couple years ago at Christmas, people were scraping the Best Buy site to find out where were the Wiis, the video games. And the screen scraping would send people actually to Best Buy headquarters, where they didn't have Wiis. They just had a lot of executives. But that's what happens when you have bad data. So they open things up, and what they have found is that developers are building apps. Their IT systems have been much easier to build, and even their advertising agencies are able to build things very quickly now because the data is open. And it's led to, actually in their world, a way of really almost increasing the size of the company very quickly by opening things up. You know you're cruising into a bubble when these ideas that start out as experiments at MIT end up in late-night television as something you could buy. So I saw this recently on TV, and I realized that this kind of sentient city thing, this ambient informatics issue, is now becoming mainstream.
Think you need a green thumb to grow a beautiful garden? Not anymore. Introducing Easy Bloom, the smart new gardening breakthrough that delivers the garden of your dreams. Easy Bloom's advanced plant sensor takes the guesswork out of gardening. Its patented sensors collect a plant's eye view, measuring sunlight, temperature and humidity, soil moisture, and drainage. After 24 hours, plug the top of Easy Bloom into an internet-connected PC or Mac. Automatically, the data is uploaded to the Easy Bloom website and adjusted to your zip code and climate. In seconds, Easy Bloom's massive plant library with information on over 5,000 different plants recommends the exact plants that will flourish in your garden. Easy Bloom even takes the guesswork out of watering with NASA's moisture sensing technology, instantly chirping when your plant needs more water.
I've never had such a beautiful garden, and I owe it all to Easy Bloom.
And the best thing is, you don't have to be a computer genius. This website is so user-friendly, even I can use it.
Order the entire Easy Bloom plant sensor system plus $20 in free bonuses for just $59.95.
So I just saw that the other day, and it was actually one of several things I saw on TV that weekend that made me realize that the Internet of Things is quite upon us. I think for all of us here, this is a really interesting moment in that we live in a world where the crisis of cities, the crisis of growth, and the question of how do you use smart information to move forward is what's on the table. And it reminds me a lot of where the world was around 70 years ago. In 1939, the world had just come out of the recession, and the world's designers and technologists kind of came together and asked, how could we build a better tomorrow, which was the theme of the fair. And at the time, it was designers who were asking, how could we do a better job in our cities? How could we plan better? And they expressed themselves in that era the way that they did then, with architecture, with transportation. It's out of that where General Motors came up with its vision of suburbs and suburban transportation. And in this film called The City, written by Lewis Mumford and music by Aaron Copland, the question among designers was, how do we really go and deliver ourselves from cities that weren't quite working into something that was better? And we stand at a similar crossroad today, except we have the advantage of working with ambient data, with things that without a lot of additional marginal cost, but that we could analyze it, could lead to better decisions and a much better way of engaging our populations, managing locally, and understanding a lot of the international flows around cities, which means that this giant brain that we were worried about 50 years ago, which is now very distributed and ambient, is a wonderful opportunity, and it's the people, I think, here at the forefront of what's just becoming the next kind of big focus. A great opportunity that we have to willfully, with planning, bring about a better society, work through some of the privacy issues, and realize this next great era of computing in cities. Thanks.